Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have un gran show para ustedes hoy. Great show for you today. Anyhow, folks, Michael Rodnen is here already, and he starts. The beginning of the end is already underway. Some tropical forests in Brazil are already releasing more carbon than they absorb. That's crazy. For years, climate scientists have been sounding the alarm about the increasing likelihood of the Amazon rainforest, now one of the biggest absorbers of carbon in the world, could actually become a source of carbon within just 15 years. New research shows that for some other kinds of tropical forests nearby, that's already happening. Forests in Brazil emitting more carbon than they absorb due to climate change study. The driest and warmest forests are experiencing the highest increase in carbon. Got to do some research on that. I don't know if I can explain that from a scientific point of view, but I imagine if it's in some sort of a news, it got to be right. Bridge MCP, welcome aboard to Politics Done Right. How's everybody doing today? We're going to have a great show. Hey, it seems like we don't have a president, huh? It seems like this president is just worried about trying to get his stuff back, somehow win the election that he lost by crook, hook, or whatever he can. Trying to get people to, trying to use martial law, trying to do all these kinds of things. Come on. While we're losing approximately a 9/11 amount of people every day. This is the President of the United States. It is just amazing. It is just amazing. Anyhow, we have a great show for you today. Let me go ahead and put that up on the screen for you. The title of the show today is Economist Dean Baker exposes pharmaceuticals, Fox News caves, Pundit on autocrat Trump, and more. We're going to have all these guys in order. We're going to probably have Dean Baker at the 30-minute mark or somewhere around there. But you got to stick around to see that one because the Economist, Dr. Dean Baker, has some important, what would I call it, analysis, realities, all these things to let us know. Because as it turns out, it is sad. It is sad about our pharmaceutical systems, but we'll get there. We'll get there about the 30. So the topics are, the Lion Fox News was forced to come clean, but it is too late for too many who were vested in believing the lies. These guys should be held accountable, not just for a correction, but for the damage they have caused the country. And Anand Hiriradas, I love this guy, said it. Had Trump been a smart autocrat, he would have proven how easy America could become an autocracy. Why am I on to this point here? You know, we go around the world talking about how great and exceptional we are, right? We do that a lot. I don't know how many of you have read the Constitution, but I've read the entire Constitution. And the Constitution isn't this document that everybody believed was there to give everybody freedom and was there to create this wonderful country so that we can all live in perfect equality and harmony. It was a document to protect the few. Let's get the myth out of all this stuff. It was a document to protect the few, but because it had an elastic clause in there, there could be amendments applied to it. We continuously made it a better document. But that better document is still a big flawful document, full of flaws. And Donald Trump showed that if he were smarter, we could have taken those flaws to the bank and turned this country, removed democracy quite easily. And in fact, we are still in that point. And Michael Rudnin is correct. In fact, I was a board member of Move to Amend for several years. And I remember sitting down and talking to the former presidential candidate, David Cobb, for the Green Party. And we sat down talking, and he looked at me and he said, Egberto, you ever read the Constitution? I said, of course I did. And he said, did you realize that that was nothing more than a property document? And then I reread the Constitution and I said, oh my God, the amount of time they spent on slavery and all that kind of stuff and 3/5 of a person and you name it. Oh my God, it is so true. So this myth that we have, that this document that left only 5% of the people in America eligible to vote, we need to really do some severe modification to it. Personally, I would like to rewrite the whole damn thing like they did in South Africa, but that's not going to happen. But we really need to take a really good look at how close we are to making this country an autocracy. And the fact of the matter is, minority rule is already in effect. And we all know that that is how McConnell was running. He figures, well, you know, those darn progressives are making too much sense and all those great things that they want are going to come to pass. Therefore, we must set up this system that we allow the only undemocratic portion of this government to keep that that deep neoliberal tint. And there's only one part of this country that is undemocratic specifically. And that is the judiciary. Once you get on that judiciary, you're there for life. Federal, that is. And if you can control the Supreme Court, and you can control the district courts and all these guys, any laws that passes into Congress, unless we get an override, can be deemed unconstitutional by a few men. Think about that. So we are still not out of the woods until we get enough of a plurality in the Senate and the House, supermajorities in both of them, to start effecting constitutional changes. And this is not only a local thing, this is a statewide thing, a national thing, but we are in peril. For those of us who want equity, this document was designed to make equity, to make changes to it that will serve equity. Very, very difficult. Anyhow, let's go ahead and get started. Fox had to backtrack on all that stuff that they spoke about. Oh, those voting machines are so bad. You know, they lie with impunity, right? Well, a part of the capitalist system said, we're going to sue your butts for trying to use, for lying on us on somebody like Donald Trump on his behalf. Lie on other things, not on Trump's behalf. And here's what happened. Check this out. Finally, under the threat of being sued, Fox News and all its sycophants, or those hosts that are nothing but sycophants, were forced to tell the truth. You know, they have most of their people believing the voting machines were rigged. The voting machines were stealing votes from Donald Trump, and they continuously tell their people that. Well, the manufacturer of the voting machine says, okay, prove it. Or else you better show this stuff to let people know that you were lying. And check out what it is that they had to do. I think it's great. I'm going to just show you a piece of it and then give you a link where you can actually go see the whole thing. Check this out.
The irregularities of mail-in voting, of election voting machines and voting software. Lots of opinions about the integrity of the election, the irregularities of mail-in voting.
And by the way, those irregularities came from where? I mean, those claims of irregularities, where did it come from again? It came from you guys. Don't forget that. Don't make it seem like, oh, it's just out of the air and people are saying that. You guys were promoting it. Fox News hosts like yourself and others.
Of election voting machines and voting software. One of the companies is Smartmatic, and we reached out to one of the leading authorities on open source software for elections, Eddie Perez, for his insight and views. Eddie is the global director of tech development at...
No, you didn't go look for them out of the benevolence of your heart, sir. Why don't you say you were forced? You had to do this.
The Open Source Election Technology Institute. We asked him for his assessment of Smartmatic and recent claims about the company.
Have you seen any evidence that Smartmatic software was used to flip votes anywhere in the U.S. in this election?
I have not seen any evidence that Smartmatic software was used to delete, change, alter anything related to vote tabulation.
Dominion uses.
Okay, you guys can go directly to the link at Fox Business to take a look at this. But what I'm trying to tell you is, you know, these guys come and they make corrections later on, right? But what happens to the psyche of people who've heard these things and then they go off on a tangent believing that the election was screwed up by some sort of a voting machine? Look, we need better tracking of all votes. We need audit trails so that we can back up with a piece of paper or something what the outcome of an election is. But to go out there because Donald Trump lost, because he lost the election by a landslide in the popular vote, we should not allow these folks to go out there and create chaos in the country by lying to people, believing that somehow there was this systemic voter fraud throughout the country. That, to me, is treasonous based on the effect it could have on this country. Absolutely so. I definitely think that is treasonous. But, you know, treason has some very specific definition. Remember the author that I brought on a few months ago, who, when I looked at him, I said, did Donald Trump commit treason by doing X, Y, and Z? And he said, Egberto, as much as I wish we could call that treason, treason has a very specific definition. So no, Donald Trump did not commit treason. Okay, all right, I got you. But man, it is one step below, but and likely worse than what it would have otherwise been. Anyhow, second topic, Anan Hidad Aradas. You know what we just spoke about, the possibility of this place coming close to being in that type of a country, an autocratic country. Listen to Anan. Anan gets it right. Hanan Hidad hit the nail on the head. Suppose Donald Trump was an intellect. Suppose Donald Trump was smart with the same attributes that he has currently to attract people. We would have been in trouble. Think about the election that we just had. In as much as Joe Biden beat Donald Trump by north of 7 million votes, in the Electoral College in about 3 states, there were just a few 100,000 votes that separated the potential that Donald Trump could have been president with the largest popular landslide against him. That is how fragile our democracy is. That is how inept the way we elect a president is. But that also says that if we had a smart, as Harada says, if we had a smart autocrat who wasn't as bad at autocracy as Donald Trump, we would have been in deep trouble. Check what he had to say out, then we'll take it on the other side.
And how is it possible to say everything is not already off the tracks when 300,000 Americans are dead and the president is trying to overturn the election result?
I always think it's advisable to stay away from train metaphors when talking about autocrats, whether they're on the track or off the track or on time or not on time. Look, the reality is Donald Trump is not that different from other autocrats, which is that it's about him. It's auto means self. This is all for him. And the thing that actually does distinguish him from some of history's autocrats is intelligence, efficiency, competency, organizational skills. And I'm speaking about the other autocrats, not him. I think in the long run, it's hard to feel this emotionally now. In the long run, there will be some small feeling that we lucked out in getting the particular flavor of autocrat who's not good at autocracy. But I have to also say, Mehdi, and you have been one of the leading lights covering this meta story, that Trump's assault on democracy is sort of like that final kick in Mortal Kombat, like the finish him kick. And we need to talk more about the fact. Ask why democracy was down on its knees, raggedy, cut up, scuffed, beaten and bruised before he got there. This is just the final kick. And when you see a government that's not just unable to deliver relief tonight, but for 40 years has failed time and again to make people's lives better through policy. When you see a government that has proposed milquetoast solutions to the challenges of market-driven globalization and the other displacements in people's lives. When you see a government that, frankly, on both sides, the blame originating with Republicans, dominated by Republicans, but with some amount of Democratic complicity, going along with the fundamental neoliberal thesis that markets solve most of our problems. And you saw President Obama recently expressing some regret about going along with that Reaganist consensus himself while in office. So there is a lot of blame to go around, and the president is trying to deliver that final finish him blow.
That final finishing blow. But folks, it's not over. Yes, there will be more populists trying, that type of populist trying to take over. The democracy is fragile. There's an aberration in the Constitution. There's a lot of work to do, but those of us in the activist space, in the independent media space, we're going to have to do our job, because it's not going to be done by those who are fed by this type of corruption. Excellent. Hey, that is so true. Look, this morning I woke up and I picked up, well, not picked up, because I read all my news from the online newspapers. I don't burn the forest down. I go ahead and subscribe to the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Houston Chronicle. I get all my feeds from all the international papers, Panama. I get the La Prensa. I get a few from France, etc., etc., etc. But here's the deal. And it's important to get some of these newspapers in another language. Like I read the Spanish version of La Prensa, which is a Panamanian paper, just because it's going to probably quote some items from Spain and other countries. And that way you get a better flavor of the news, right? You don't just get the stage news that you get here in the United States. I mean, I'm originally from Panama, and COVID is tough down there. And you'd hear that COVID is doing badly in the UK, it's doing badly in France, etc. But it's like the rest of the world doesn't matter, right? You don't hear about Panama. A lot of Americans live in Panama, but yeah, you don't hear that it's going crazy down there or anything like that. So, you know, we have places that we consider important and others that we simply don't. Anyhow, so I read the Washington Post this morning, and it had a title that really got me a bit perturbed. So I had to do this piece. So check this out, and then we'll take this on the other side. I just read an article on the Washington Post. It was titled, "Democrats See Grim Prospects in Final Election Results Despite Biden's Win." That's the title of the article. But when you read the article in detail, you start to wonder exactly what are they talking about. First of all, I had one particular response to the article. Let me place the article on the screen first of all. But I had one response to the article when I first posted it. I said, I read this article with trepidation, mostly because Democrats can easily win 60% just being who we say we are. Republicans lie about what Democrats will do to them. Democrats tell Americans what Republicans won't allow them to do for them. And that is really the problem that we have as a Democratic Party. In effect, what many don't see is the service to several masters, the claim that we are a working class party, a party for the party for everybody, a party that doesn't allow the wealthy to gain everything, to take everything away. But the problem is, as we talk to people, that's not what necessarily they hear. And why is that the case? The case is when we have the sect of the party that brings the policy that really is going to make material difference to people's lives, we are fighting two battles. The first battle is with Republicans saying those policies are policies that are socialist, or those are policies that most Americans don't want, which we know factually, based on polls, are not true. And when we come to a particular sect within our party itself, they pick up many of the talking points of the Republicans, and henceforth the statement that I make, Democrats tell Americans what Republicans won't allow them to do for them. Here is the problem, and this is something that I speak about many times over and over again that I hope more people would realize. We have establishments in both parties, and what I call the left rail and the right rail. And these establishments are pretty much the rails. And guess what happens when you have the rails? Rails move in one direction, a left rail and a right rail. But the one thing we know about these rails is that they're always moving in the same direction. In the case of America going forward, or in America since Reagan, we have always had these rails moving with a tilt to the right, And a progressive tilt to the right in the long run is exactly what we're living through. Income inequality and job insecurity and unfettered capitalism. That is what we see. And until we get honest with ourselves, America wants the democratic policies. But if you want the democratic policies to succeed, you have to lead with the democratic policies without fear. In this article, it shows Ryan stating things like Americans are not speaking to people, and he's absolutely right about that. But the thing about it is, many times he himself would say, but if we talk about issues like Medicare for all, something that most Americans really want and will want if the narrative is not allowed to be the narrative of the Republicans, which says take government control of healthcare, as opposed to us stating the private healthcare system is nothing but a plantation system where you choose which plantation you want to live on. Medicare for all is opposite from that. Medicare for all says we pay the bill, you decide who you want to control your healthcare. Private healthcare says which plantation do you want to control your life. We have to get the narrative right. We have to be the ones telling people how things work. Now, the complaints that Democrats did so badly in this election isn't quite true either. If you take a look at even on this particular article that wasn't the best written, wasn't very well written, you see what we hear. These positives that came out of Democrats on the ground working hard did all the right things. There are places that we need to get better at. Numero uno, we need to start going into rural areas and letting these farmers know we are on your side. We're not on ADM's side. We're not on the side where it says give all the stimulus to the large companies that are agribusiness and it never trickles down to you. Give it to you directly. These are the things we need to talk about. The evangelicals, that's a lost cause, because that is based completely on dishonesty. That is based completely on a few people trying to get rich off of the free money of others. So we'll forget about the evangelical sections as far as how to get them. That is, forget about that. But all the other areas, the areas where they say, well, the right is making inroads into African American men. Understand the reason why. Understand that why somehow Trump appealed to a tiny bit more so than in the past. And if we do these things, if we start talking to people, we will get there. this article, the title of this article, shouldn't be taken seriously. Democrats see grim prospect in final election results despite Biden's win. The title should have been Democrats see grim prospects in final election results despite Biden's wins if they continue to campaign from two sides of their mouth, if they continue to campaign not for the common person in the city, the common person in rural areas, the common person everywhere that defies those who now control it all. The title is, If We Talk to the People will vote us in. And that is definitely, I wrote a correspondent blog for this particular piece, and I ended it saying one thing. When you're talking to people, when you're really telling people what we really stand for, the other thing you're not trying to tell them, I want you Republican to become a Democrat. I want you to start being this way. All you got to tell them is, look, when you go into that booth, it's between you, your ballot, and your God. Vote your personal interests. Vote your medical interests. Vote your economic interest, okay? Vote your economic interest. Don't forget, when you get out of that booth, you can tell your friends anything you want to tell them. Oh, yeah, I went and I voted for those right-wingers. Those are our people. As long as you vote your interest, because they don't know what you did. So please always remember that. Anyhow, folks, it's time for me to do my quick 2-minute stint here to ask you to please support the show. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please go ahead and click that join button. Click that join button and become a part of what our good friend Brige MCP calls the PDR Posse, the Politics Done Right Posse. Please help us. Actually, what you're doing is you're really helping us promote the message. What is it that we do? We don't only do this show. We don't only do this show here on the internet, YouTube, etc. We also do this show on KPFT 90.1 FM, a Pacifica network station. We also do this show on the Coffee Party Network. We do this show this show eventually gets all over, not only in video form but in podcasts, etc. Why are we doing this show? We're doing this to get the progressive message going forward. So if you can go ahead and click that join button, very inexpensive to become a member to help us go ahead and push this message out, or you can go ahead and hit that $sign and give us a super chat. Now, what else do we do? Do we only do shows, videos? No. We do various videos a day to continuously promote the message. We write several blogs a day, all of the time. Great. Made we gift for now. Okay, I'm gonna look it up. See, my message made a we gift for now. Great. I'm gonna look it up, my dear. I'm gonna look it up. Anyhow, so folks, we also do blogs. A lot of blogs, a lot of articles. We don't only put it on our site, but on many other sites, Daily Kos, Op-Ed News, and everywhere that we can get these articles placed, so that we can populate the internet with progressive data. Why? The right wing has a lot of people that they are paying to put all this stuff out. So when people search on Medicare for all, if there's not enough backspace for our progressive move, the search engines pull up a lot of right wing stuff, and when people start reading, they say, oh my God, I can't see, but Medicare for all is bad, because they're pulling up a lot of right-wing data. We populate the left-wing space. We populate the progressive space to make sure that people also see our point of view, which, because our point of view is the humane point of view, can do a good job in convincing many. So please go ahead and consider hitting that join button. Alternatively, by the way, see that book on the screen? That is one of our many books. It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. Here's the link to pick it up at Amazon. That's the link to pick it up at Amazon. You can also, if you want to cut out the middle person, you can go directly to our store. In fact, I'm shipping a few of them off as soon as I'm done with this show today. You can go to politicsdoneright.com/store, politicsdoneright.com/store. That also helps defray the cost of our program, not only the program here, but also the blogging and paying for all the different WordPress sites, etc., that we have here. And then, of course, we want our members on Patreon. That is politicsdoneright.com/Patreon, politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon is spelled Patreon. Patreon, politicsdoneright.com/Patreon, as well as All of us take PayPal. politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Look, I've been putting out that my new book. It's worth it. But this is the one that talks a whole lot about the economics and patents and all that good stuff as well. So consider getting that as well. Okay, let's get busy. Dr. Dean Baker is our. Well, let me just tell folks. Ron Globe, welcome aboard. Brige MCP, welcome aboard. Michael Rudnin, welcome aboard. And I know I've saw quite a few more on there. Okay, Jacoby G, welcome aboard. Bam Bam, welcome aboard. Let's see, who else am I getting to? I tell you what, I'll finish this off after we get to Dr. Dean Baker. But Dr. Dean Baker has a lot to say. Let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll take it thereafter. Check it out. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. I'm honored to be with Dr. Dean Baker, who's an economist and co-founder of the Center for Economic and Policy Research. Dr. Baker, thank you so kindly for catching up with us at this sort of a, I should say opportune time. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Look, Dr. Baker, let me tell you, I've been very concerned about these vaccines. First of all, I am happy that we got it done, but there are a few things that I think a lot of people don't understand in the beginning, and that is, while the vaccines were rather quick, the technology was just there and ready for this occurrence. The RNA research, all of that was done by the public sector for a long time. Universities have been working on this for a while. I just saw a report in Common Dreams where there is an issue with the WTO and making these vaccines readily available around the world. And this is because of patenting and profits, etc. So why don't you please give me your rundown as far as what's happening and what you think should occur with these vaccines and putting them throughout the world?
Yeah, so what we're seeing is that we have now successful vaccines, both the Pfizer and the Moderna. I don't know if the FDA has actually approved Moderna yet. It's probably going to do it if it hasn't done it today, tomorrow. I mean, it's literally any day now. So we have successful vaccines, but the problem is that we have inadequate supplies. And the United States and other rich countries have locked up much of the supply of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines really through 2021. And what that means is there'll be little available for much of the world, for the poor countries in the world. And what's going on is that the WTO, there's a resolution before the World Trade Organization put forward by South Africa and India that would suspend patent and other intellectual property rights, not just on vaccines, but also on treatments, because we know there are issues with, Regeneron, the treatment that Donald Trump took, and apparently is very effective. There are patents on these that are limiting production of that. So this resolution would call for suspending patent rights for the duration of the pandemic. So what that would mean is that any manufacturer anywhere in the world that they had ability to produce these vaccines or these treatments would be able to do so at least through the duration of the pandemic. So in principle, that could allow vaccines to be spread much more quickly and hopefully get the pandemic under control, not just in the United States and Europe, but throughout the world.
Now, what I found disconcerting is, I always talk about many of the European countries being more enlightened. They have somewhat Medicare for all type system throughout the world. So they put more emphasis in humanity than we do as a country. And it surprised me that the countries that were against suspending the patent, not eliminating the patent, but suspending the patents, wouldn't do so. We had Japan in there. We had the UK. We had the European Union. All these guys are saying, no, we don't want to do that. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, there are two things going on. The bigger one is that all these countries have their own pharmaceutical industries, and they're very powerful, just as they are here. So as much as we might think our government gets corrupted by big business, by the pharmaceutical industry, well, you have big pharmaceutical companies in Germany, in France, in the Netherlands, So same story applies there, so that their industries are demanding. They don't want this. They see it as a bad precedent. And the other part is there's some sense of solidarity. In this case, a pernicious solidarity. You'd like to see them have solidarity with the people throughout the world, low-income people throughout the world who need to be protected from this pandemic, but their solidarity is with other rich countries. So it's very hard to break. On the plus side, I will just say something here that it's rare that you get outright victory. So I would love to see that, South Africa and India taking the lead and put this forward. I'd love to see the U.S. and Europe and go, yeah, that's right. Part of the point, that I have made and others about this is that they've already been paid. So it's not as though we're Pfizer won't be well compensated. They're already being paid. Moderna, they've already been paid. So they just might not be getting as much money as they might hope. But what we might see, and I think we are seeing out of this, is that even if they don't actually suspend the patent rights, we've created pressure on these companies to have licensing to basically disperse their vaccines much more quickly than they might have otherwise. So even if they still nominally maintain the patent rights, they'll negotiate with manufacturers in India and Brazil, countries that have manufacturing capacity, and allow them to manufacture their vaccines or the other treatments. So I think it's not necessarily what I would want to see. I want to see anyone who could produce this stuff produce it. But I think it brings to bear pressure that has a real outcome, real effect.
Now, based on your knowledge, these companies, they have the technology already to produce it, and they know the formulas, the regenerations and all these things to make these products, don't they?
Well, you have sophisticated manufacturing facilities in many developing countries. Certainly, India is the foremost pharmaceutical manufacturing in the world. Now, can they just reverse engineer, the vaccine from Pfizer, from Moderna? That I don't know the answer to. I've heard conflicting things on that because they say, oh, it's very complex. And then I've heard other people who are experts, which I am not, say, well, actually, it's not that complex. So I don't have the answer to that. What I will say is that if Moderna, if Pfizer, if they acted in good faith, they would transfer the know-how. So we wouldn't have to have this argument. So I don't know whether, the engineers in India could just go, oh, we know how to do this and, get, obviously not tomorrow, but we're talking 2-3 months down the road, or whether they would actually need someone at Moderna, someone involved in manufacturing to show them exactly what to do. That I can't answer. But, again, what we would like is for them to transfer the technology.
Well, look, I'm not a biologist either. I'm just an engineer. But here's what's interesting. The person who sort of developed a lot of the spike protein technologies right here in Houston, where I'm at. I don't remember the name of the doctor right now. But interestingly, I think you're onto something when you said, well, some of them say that it's easy, and just maybe a lot of this stuff has to do with it not being. Look, the fact that it came out in 9 months, Dr. Baker, probably means it's not all that complex. I mean,
that's right. So the fact was, no one was producing this 9 months ago. So, Moderna was able to ramp up and be prepared to produce it in, I don't know, 4 months, 5 months. I don't know when they first started, and same with Pfizer. So this we aren't talking about something that takes years and years. And again, an important point to keep in mind, no one thinks that the whole world will be vaccinated by the end of this year, or next year, I should say, the 221. So even if we have facilities that don't come online until July, August, September, that will still mean people get vaccinated much, much earlier than would otherwise be the case.
now you're one of our what I call a progressive capitalist. I don't consider myself a capitalist at all, but I understand where you're coming from. Don't you think that these kinds of issues really put a black eye on everything that this economic system stands for, where the lives of people are dependent on a profit motive somehow?
Well, I guess I'd say two things on that. It really depends. Capitalism, better or worse, is an enormously flexible system. So that's why I don't envision a world where it gets overthrown, because you could have a million and one permutations. It could change, and it does change. And in this particular case, what I'd argue is for a big change, in the sense that we don't have to finance the development of drugs and vaccines the way we currently do with patent monopolies. So suppose, and we actually did do this with Moderna, we literally paid for their development up front. So suppose that was our general policy. I don't expect people to work for free. So we pay companies up front. They could be capitalist, profit-making companies, but they're going to get paid. Their profit will be on doing the research. Once it's done, everything is 100% in the public domain. So we have a new drug, a new vaccine. Anyone who wants to could produce it. So then we don't have these big problems that, oh, here's this really rare life-saving drug, and they're gonna charge us $100,000 for it. Well, if anyone could produce it, it's not gonna be really rare. Now, there can well be some exceptions, but those will be few and far between. So the cases we look at where something's very expensive and low-income people can't get it either in the United States or in the developing world, those for the most part wouldn't exist. So I say it really depends how we structure it, and I think the way we do it now is pretty awful.
Now, Dr. Baker, I think you've spoken a whole lot about rents and when you talk about all these particular issues. So I mean, I think, to put it bluntly, I think to some extent that is happening, but we're being conned because most of this research occurs. This RNA research occurred at Rochester University and many other universities. Okay, paid for by
Yeah,
us, right? In
yeah.
effect, I think we're kind of doing that right now, but I think we're being. I think there are charlatans that are really taking over. I'd like you to kind of tell America that we're already paying for this stuff.
Yeah, well, this is a really extreme case. I mean, we paid, a huge amount of the research was paid for by the National Institutes of Health, by private public universities. And then what you see is you get Moderna and Pfizer, saying, oh, look, we had this great innovation. And just to be clear, it is a great innovation, but the vast majority of the funding came from the public sector. And the big technology you mentioned before, discovering the coronavirus protein, that was done entirely on the public's dime. So, for them to then turn around and say, oh, we get this patent monopoly, we get to charge, and if you try to interfere with our monopoly, you're stealing from us. They say that. You go, no, we paid for it already. You guys got paid for it. And more generally, again, I think this is an extreme case, but more generally, we spend over $40 billion a year. We mean the U.S. government spends over $40 billion a year on the National Institutes of Health. And everyone agrees they do enormously important, valuable research. And what happens is they do, in many cases, the the heavy lifting that the pharmaceutical industry then works from, and they go ahead and get a patent and then charge us a lot of money for the drugs. So again, my view is rather than doing it that way, let's just pick up the whole tab. Don't just pick up the tab for the basic and sometimes even follow-on research. Let's pick up the whole tab and then just have it be produced as generic, and they still make money. So I'm being a capitalist here. They'll get paid for their.
You're trying to curve capitalism into it, no matter what.
Exactly.
But you know what is interesting, because what you said is absolutely right. But I just think that if more of you got out there to get that message out, because a lot of people don't know. They really just think, oh, you want the government to take over everything. It's like, no, the government's already doing it. So let's be real here.
Invariably, they try to turn this argument to a stupid argument. So no, I'm not going to have the central planning agency of drugs sign everything that's going to be designed. And people want to say, oh, the government can't do anything right. I go, oh, so you want to get rid of the $40 billion that we give to? No, they do that well. I mean, that's why their position on this is absurd. And I've debated people from the industry, and they would have us believe, oh, we give it to NIH to do more basic research. And again, much of their research is beyond basic, but in any case, we'll just leave that. And that's very good. But if we ask them to parcel out the money, again, they're not doing it in-house. They give it to universities, they have private contractors. If they were to say, oh, develop drugs, then we might as well just throw it in the toilet.
Exactly.
And that's actually why Moderna is so important, because we gave them $1 billion, and what they do, they developed a good vaccine very quickly.
Exactly. The tenet behind this system is maximization of monies for the shareholder. Well, the best way to maximize your money for the shareholder is get the proof of concept paid for by the public, and then you take over the spoils.
Yes, and that's what we have now, and it's a awful system. I mean, it's both wasteful in terms of money, but people's lives. I mean, we have drugs that should be very cheap, and it's difficult for many people, or impossible for them to afford them.
We can look at insulin. We can look at the AIDS cocktail that was denied the rest of the world because they couldn't afford it. How many millions of lives we lost. That is one of the reasons why I say all the time, unless you at best your form of capitalism is what we have, I think we don't have an easy future going forward, because eventually people are going to react to what we're seeing today. Eventually people will react. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a horribly, unjust system. And, again, everyone understands if there's real scarcity in the world, we all want a big house or whatever, fine. We can't all have a big house. We can understand that. But in this case, that's not even the issue. We're just keeping drugs, we're keeping vaccines from people so that some companies can make really high profits. And that's just a crazy system. And in this case, it's not just, a bigger house or something. It's literally people's lives.
And unfortunately, we have a system which really cherishes false scarcity. I'm glad you used the word scarcity because much of our pricing increase in healthcare or pricing increases in a lot of places, it's a lot about false scarcity.
Absolutely, and this is 100% false scarcity because it would not be an issue if we didn't have the patent monopolies at stake.
Dr. Baker, thank you so kindly for allowing me to interview you on this short notice, but I think this is a subject that's at hand right now and a lot of our audience, something that they're talking about. So thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Thanks a lot for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
I really enjoy talking to Dr. Baker because he really knows his stuff. And again, he's not really tied to any ideology. I called him progressive, but the reality he's not. He's an economist who understands the numbers and who understands the things. Bridge MCP, check this out. Bridge is like one of our activists here, right? And look at what she did. I was hoping let's hope this stuff goes a minute more so that I can put this on the screen. Check this out, guys. She did it. She did it. This is what she did. Politics Done Right with Egberto Willis joined the PDR posse. Hey, Bridge, do you like that? Check it out. Do you like what you're seeing? You did that. Is that great or what? She just said, hey, I'm putting it into your message right now. I can't get it in there. And she got it in there. And that's it. I love that. Politics Done Right with Egberto Willis. Join the PDR posse. And how do you join the PDR posse? Go ahead and click that join button if you're listening to us on on YouTube. Hey, thank you very much, Breach. When I saw that thing that you just threw into the message, I said, man, I got to hurry and try to get it on the screen. I got to hurry and get it on the screen. And guess what? We did it. Thank you very much, Breach. That is cool. That is cool. Okay, so folks, if you guys need some graphics done, just check out Bridge MCP and she will be there to give you the necessary graphics. Now she's complaining because on a GIF, she didn't put the transparent background. Who cares? It looks great. It looks marvelous. It looks wonderful. Anyhow, let's go ahead and, you know what, I'm going to keep this up on the screen for a little bit longer while I do the rest. Let me just kind of put it a little bit there so that I don't have to hide so much forward. So join the Politics Done Right posse by clicking, by saying PDR posse, by clicking that join button on YouTube. Anyhow, let me go ahead and take care of those messages that are out there. It is hard to believe, Rudnin, about what's going on with the rainforest. We need to do something about that. And I think we're suddenly going to do something about that. Let's see. Bridge MCP, welcome aboard. Michael Rudnin, welcome aboard. Bam, bam. Hydroxychloroquine is safe. Wait a minute. Let me just say this. I know hydroxychloroquine is safe because my wife is on it for lupus, okay? But it's not a contraindication or it's not a particular thing that's effective on COVID-19. That's what we're all talking about. Bridge MCP said true. People we're talking. That's when we're talking about the Constitution, etc., etc., etc. Let's see what else we have here. Reach my arse. Perez didn't even know he was on that particular show. That is so funny. That is so, yes. Jacoby says, LOL, Bridge, yeah, like the Patriots football team, Deflate Gate. I'm not sure what that is. Did I see that? I don't think I did. Lou Dobbs straight up lied to the people. This is Fox we're talking about. The fact checking. Yeah, but they were forced to play that. And you know, they kind of played it off like, we're trying to be responsible journalists. So we have the irresponsible person in chief, Lou Dobbs, going out there and saying, talking all these things about voting machines and telling the president he's not being strong enough to dispute the election. And election he lost by over 7 million votes. And guess what? Now they're backtracking like you know what. Ron Globe, welcome aboard. 99% of anyone from Fox News Entertainment that gets to see and hear Trump fed them Dobbs those lies. Yes. Fox Lies gets sued, retracts their own BS, and Rupert Murdoch gets the vaccine. It's a hoax. Yeah. The funny thing about it is all those Fox News people that you see there, guess where they are? They're at home. They're telling Americans, don't wear a mask, don't do all of that. But they're hiding at home. They're doing a lot of their work at home. So these guys, at some point you can be silly or you can be, I don't use offensive language. You can be silly. But at some point it becomes murder. Because if they know better and they're staying home, They're keeping themselves protected and then telling the masses, go out there and get sick. You guys go get herd immunity so that things will be okay with us. The funny thing about it is that they're so silly that they don't understand that herd immunity does not necessarily work from natural infection. In other words, it could be that a natural infection doesn't give you the immunity that a vaccine does. Okay? I mean, it is just amazing that these people don't know better. Okay, Run Globe says the percent is very different though this time 94 million people didn't vote. Yep. If Trump really is losing it, 25th Amendment, but Pence and the cabinet won't do it, we're going to have a month of chaos to follow. You know, every time I hear we're going to have some chaos, right? And the months keep coming by and nothing keeps happening, I'm like, you're running out of time for chaos now. You're running out of time for chaos. Although somebody on one of my threads on Facebook said Biden will never put a foot in the White House. We all know he's going to be in the White House after they fumigate it, clean it, and sterilize it. He'll be right there. But I am just waiting for January 20th when he steps foot in the White House, or maybe the 21st after it's fumigated. And then I'm going to approach all these people and said, I thought he was not supposed to be in the White House. What happened? You know, they keep moving the ball. They keep moving the goalposts, right? And you keep moving the goalposts, eventually where do you end up? I don't know. Where do you end up? Yo no sé. ¿Qué locura están haciendo esta gente? No sé. Okay, para ver. Ron Clove says, if we all went back to the days of raise your hand for who you want, the Republicans would have brought up all the swords and back orders till the end of time. The only way they can win. They cannot win. Right on, Egberto. Thanks. Thank you very much, Ron Globe. Brian Minor, welcome aboard. I don't think I saluted you. Have not been hearing about Johnson & Johnson. I haven't either. Remember, they had some problems up front, so who knows what's going on with them. Okay, AVQ found out that they're doing a 40,000 clinical trial. You know, AVQ is our online real-time researcher. So you ask a question, even before I get a chance to do anything about it, guess who's there? Brother Rodnin will have the answer in a few Google search strikes. And if he doesn't get the Google search strikes, the first thing he says is, Egberto, after the show, could you give us a link for this? To which I always tell Senor Rodnin, yes, sir, I will. Okay, continuing. Michael says, progressive capitalism, social democracy, well-regulated capitalism. I think he's trying to show some congruency between those terms, right? Because depending on how it's implemented is what it would be, right? Okay, making sure that poor aren't crushed by wealth inequality, making sure the environment isn't destroyed by pollution and resource depletion. Absolutely so. And you know what? I think Democrats don't do that. They should do, or not Democrats, progressives specifically. Pollution is actually what we call externalities, right, of production that is unpaid for. What I mean by that is as follows. A petroleum plant dumps carbon in the air. It dumps all kind of things that make people in their area sick. The price of the gasoline does not include those people's sickness who have to have insurance to pay for their disease. So therefore, the company who makes all these things make an additional profit by sickening people by not cleaning up their mess, not having to charge for it within their product, and thus expanding the amount of profit that can be made from that product. But because we don't explain, and the way I just said it could have been made much more simple, but I just took that off the cup of my head, right? But if we started putting things in logical steps like that, we wouldn't allow the Republicans to say, but what you're doing is you're trying to put undue regulation onto these corporations. We would be able to say, wait a minute, those corporations that the executive made a few $1 million, that guy who had to pay for his insurance company is going bankrupt. Who should we really feel sorry for again? The guy making those huge bonuses, or the person who is paying for those externalities? We have to start we have to start being explainers. But let me tell you the dirty little secret. Remember in that video I talked to you about the left rail and the right rail? The establishment Republican Party is there to keep the right flank in check, you know, the crazies on the right, and the left, the establishment of the Democratic Party is there to keep the left, the progressives, the people who really want true change, keep them in check. All of them ultimately are there for the donor class. And the donor class is a wealthy class. And yeah, they may have a little bit of right in them and or a little bit of left in them, but ultimately they all have money in them, and their first interest is money, then humanity. And once we get that in our heads, we don't have to start feeling any kind of sorry. Thank you for, let's say, vaccine scarcity will be temporary, making tens of millions of doses every month. You know, it shouldn't, look, there is enough capacity in India. There's enough capacity in a lot of these countries. But right now, the drawback is patenting. And that's what the WTO is asking for. Please suspend the patent so we can make this stuff en masse, put it out there so we can send it to Asia, Africa, and all these places where there are a lot of underserved, and get them the vaccines for free, so that we can solve the entire world's problem. It's possible. But you know, money first, money first. Thank you, Brij. Brij says, deep interview. Have to watch again. Yeah, he always gives very deep interviews. He's very good. Brij says, try to use your books as background. Couldn't get it. Hey, it doesn't matter, man. I have enough books as a background. But you know what? If you make if that white portion is made transparent, then the background of the books would come through that white spot. But by the way, you know what, Brij, I want to see if you. Hey, I have a task for you, Brij. Somehow incorporate, become a PDR posse on YouTube by clicking join or something like that. Only if you want to. Only if you want to. Because I love what you did there already. Ron Globe says, how is it ironic that the natives in the Amazon with no current vaccines of what is dreadful in that forest would be laughing at... You're so bad, Mr. Globe. You are so bad. Ron Globe, what do you mean? Egberto, we're living through the few years of environmental action where humanity's impact can alter the outcome. 4 vital steps to protect the world's rainforests. Got to read that another time, sir, but thank you for pointing that out. Ron Globe says that we are in dire to find a cure when they use ancient natural herbs. Exactly. Ron, Amazon tribes dying from coronavirus as well. I don't know. I haven't checked that out. Ron Globe. Yes, I understand. Okay. Biden will have to also look for traps. Don't trust rump. Well, you know what? I think by now everybody knows that. Or should know that. Laughing my ass off after the show. All right, MCP. Deborah John, welcome to Politics. Look, Deborah, if you're going to give me this long stuff to read, you have to come earlier, my sister. You have to come earlier so that I can see. That's a whole article. Egberto, I strongly believe that it's time to aggressively, publicly put emphasis on this. On what? Let me see. Egberto, as much as that I support the Democratic Party, that $600 Congress settled to give the working class taxpayers was a slap in the face to the American people. I agree. Since summer 2020, Congress passed a bill to move to second round of stimulus days before Christmas. You're absolutely right. I agree with that. Look, you're singing to the choir. Tell people or share these programs. Tell people to support these programs, because we have to put this word out. Deborah John, you're correct. You're absolutely correct, okay? You're absolutely correct. Capitalism would treat the atmosphere and our waterways as open sewers. Yeah, and then they will charge us to clean it up, to continue living. That is what capitalism does. Man, you guys have a lot of messages here. Okay, Brij says, Egberto, I did have support show. Join PDR Posse and then delete it in an error. You're great, MCP. You're great. Deborah John says, Pelosi is under attack by the people because of that $600. Then she stated it's something better than nothing. It is something better than nothing. And some people, because they weren't going to do anything otherwise, they were not going to allow it, Deborah John. So I am appreciative that they did the $600. I am appreciative that they did the $600. But Thereafter, we got to do better. We need to win Georgia. So anybody, help those people in Georgia. Find out how you can make calls in Georgia. Go to the Georgia Democratic page and see how you can be of assistance to get people out to the polls in Georgia. If you're in northern Florida, you can help them. If you're in southern South Carolina, you can help them. If you're in Alabama, you can help them. All those states that surround Georgia, if you're on near there, you can help them. Share your posts in group I belong to regarding Texas guy suing. That was funny. That is great. I appreciate that. That reporter is great. He has been sending me his stuff to post on my site now for several years. Love the guy. I'm late. Got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.